Hello, it's Mundo Monday, and it's time for one of my favorite worldwide events, the Olympics. The Olympic Games are a chance for people from all over the world to gather together to share their talents. The world's greatest athletes compete together as much for the experience as the win. And it's not just athletes either. Performers and technicians from all over the world create lavish spectacles to open and close the games. And reporters do my favorite thing of all, share the many stories of the people and cultures participating in the games. Back in ancient Greece, athletes from all over the Greek Empire would gather in the city of Olympia every 4 years to compete in feats of strength, speed, and agility. The winners would be crowned with wreaths of laurels. During the Olympic Games, all the city-states of Greece agreed to stop going to war with each other and celebrate these, sportsmanlike endeavors together instead. As the official Olympic creed says, the most important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part. Just as the most important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well. In the mid-1800s, to celebrate their independence from the Ottoman Empire, modern Greek citizens held an Olympic Games revival, and several other communities around the world decided to host their own Olympic Games too. A Frenchman named Baron Pierre de Coubertin attended an Olympic revival and said, "You know what? Instead of having games in many different places with just the people who live nearby, we should have people from all over the whole world come together for one big international Olympic Games." And he gathered people from all over the world into an International Olympic Committee to plan such games. The first Olympics they hosted in 1896 was in Athens, Greece, not too far away from Olympia. But since that time, a different city in a different country has hosted the games every 4 years, and then every 2 years once the Winter Games got their own year, giving that city's culture a chance to share their stories with the world. The Olympic Games of 2020 had to be put on hold to keep everyone safe from the pandemic. But now, this past weekend, they have started again. This time in Tokyo, the capital city of Japan. I have the perfect book to celebrate too. You do? Yes, it's a book about a Summer Olympic sport. It's a book about sharing and celebrating our cultural similarities and differences. And it takes place half in Japan. Half in Japan? You'll see. It's called Take Me Out to the Yakyu. It's about a boy visiting his grandparents. One of his grandfathers lives in the United States and the other one lives in Japan. But they both love taking their grandson to baseball games. This book shows some of the ways the experience is different and the same in the two countries. Take Me Out to the Yakyu by Meshon. I love baseball in America and in Japan. My American pop-pop takes me to watch baseball at the stadium. My Japanese Gigi takes me to watch Yakyu at the Dome. In America, we drive to the game in our long blue station wagon. In Japan, we ride to the game in a short red bus that turns into a train. You see that? It drives right onto the tracks there. Are we there yet? Yes, we are. See, there's the stadium, it's open air, and there's a dome. It's all covered
Cover it up. That's important. You'll see later.
In America, Pop-Up gets me a giant foam hand. In Japan, Gigi gets me a giant plastic horn. In America, Pop-Up also gets us hot dogs and peanuts before we find our seats. In Japan, Gigi also gets us soba noodles and edamame before we find our seats. I wonder what these little treats are. They look like they might be sweet and cakey-like. The game is starting! In America, the pitcher throws a 95-mile-per-hour fastball! In Japan, the Toshu, that's the pitcher, throws a 153-kilometer-per-hour Sokyu! In America, we cheer, get a hit, go for it, win, win, win! In Japan, we cheer, Kanapase, Kanapate, do your best! Crack! Ka-king! It's a home run! In America, in the 7th inning, we sing, take me out to the ball game, and then we stretch. In Japan, in the 7th inning, we sing our team's anthem, and then we let balloons go. That's why it's important. It's got a closed roof. So all the balloons go up to the ceiling. My favorite American team won! My favorite Japanese team tied! Because that's the difference between the two games. Professional baseball in America, they keep playing until somebody wins. In Japanese, they finally say, okay, it's a tie. After the game, Pop-Up gets me my favorite player's jersey. After the game, Gigi gets me my favorite player's towel. It's kind of like here in Pittsburgh, in football time, we have terrible towels. Except in Japan, they have towels for baseball season. Are we home yet? Yes, we are. Look at the two different houses. The American house has a big garage and a big yard, and the Japanese house is right close in between a whole bunch of other houses. Grandma has a snack and bath waiting for me. Baba has a snack and ofuro waiting for me. What a wonderful day. The end. That was fun! I think the thing I like best, though, is that the baseball fans in Japan chant, do your best, instead of just win, win, win. That's very in the spirit of the Olympic Games. I've heard some athletes say that they don't consider themselves competing against the other athletes, but against themselves, trying to do better and better than they've done before every time. Yes, that's what the Olympic creed means by not to have conquered but to fought well. And it's not about fighting the other athletes. It's about fighting the negative voices, either from people around you or the voices in your own head. The voices who say, you can't do that. You can't run that fast or be that strong or graceful. That reminds me of a really interesting Olympian from the 1960s. Well, that was when she was in the Olympics, I mean. She was born in 1940. She only lived until 1994, which is relatively young. 54, it's only about 10 years older than me. But when you see what she survived to get to that age, you'll agree that she fought well. This is the story of Wilma Rudolph. It's a true story, but it's written by Isabel Sanchez Vergara, illustrated by Amelia Flower. One summer day, a little baby arrived to a big and loving family. Her name was Wilma, and she was the tiniest baby in Tennessee, or so her 19 siblings thought. Can you imagine having 19 brothers and sisters? She was the 20th, but she actually wasn't the youngest. There were 2 more kids after her. 22 kids in the family. Wilma was tiny, and Wilma caught almost every disease that came through town. But Things got even worse when she was just 4. One day, her left leg began to turn in and become twisted. She had contracted an illness called polio, and doctors said she would never walk again without a leg brace. But her mother told Wilma she would, and Wilma decided to believe her. Maybe Wilma needed her brace to move around for now, but she promised herself that one day she would run even faster than a gazelle. See a gazelle? It's kind of like a deer, real skinny deer, a really fast deer. Twice a week, Wilma and her mom would go to the hospital. They had to sit tight at the back of the bus for 2 long hours. White passengers sat comfortably at the front. They were segregated. They said, "You can't sit together." Remember, we read some stories about that earlier in the year. But they never missed an appointment. Back home, her brothers and sisters would take turns rubbing her leg, just like the nurses did at the hospital. For 5 years, they gave Wilma 4 massages nearly every day. That's around 7,300 massages. Good thing there were a lot of brothers and sisters to take turns. Finally, her family's care and attention showed results. By the time she was 9, Wilma no longer needed her leg brace. And once she took it off, there was no turning back. She'd always wanted to play basketball, so the first thing she did was ask for a chance to join the girls' high school team. That was even before she was in high school. Wilma scored 803 points in less than a year, setting a record and leading her team to the state championship. One day, a coach named Ed spotted Wilma playing and invited her to join a summer college program for young athletes. Soon, she was running so fast that if you blinked, you might have missed her. She was the youngest member of the U.S. team at the Olympic Games in Australia. That was in 1956, so she was 16 years old. And she went to the Olympics, where she won her first bronze medal running the 400-meter relay. She knew that next time she would do even better. 4 years later, in 1960, Wilma went to the Olympics in Rome. She became the first woman to win 3 gold medals. Her success made many girls realize that sprinting was not something that only boys could do. They were going to go out and run too. When she returned home, the governor planned to hold a welcome parade for her. Wilma attended under one single condition. People of all colors should join the celebration as one. No more segregation. Everybody together. And many athletes, black, white, every color, every type, found inspiration in the story of little Wilma, the girl who fought against all odds to become the fastest woman in the world, the one who knew greatness lives within each of us. And you can see some real pictures of her growing up, running in the Olympics, finally graduating from school after she won all those gold medals, and speaking to all the people. She was a fighter for both. Girls doing sports and people of all races getting together and competing together.
That's an amazing story. Hearing you'll never walk again, but then going on to win 3 gold medals for running? And being discriminated against and going on to have the governor welcome you home with a desegregated parade.
What's even more amazing is that Wilma Rudolph is far from the only Olympic champion to have overcome such great challenges to get where they got. Many Olympic athletes have incredible stories about how they grew. They grew to be Olympians through hard work and perseverance and some good luck too.
You know, the International Olympic Committee also plans the Paralympic Games, with events adapted to be played by athletes with specific physical disabilities, like wheelchair basketball. But that hasn't stopped some Paralympic athletes from competing in the regular, unadapted Olympic Games as well, and sometimes even winning. Having a disability doesn't mean you can't. It means you need to work a little harder to get there.
Yeah, and two of the greatest recent U.S. Olympians, actually, two of the greatest athletes in the whole world, Simone Biles in gymnastics and Michael Phelps in swimming, they both have ADHD just like me. Of course, that doesn't affect how their physical body works, but it does make practicing anything over and over difficult. And practice is something anyone who wants to compete in the Olympics has to do an awful lot of.
So what's stopping you from being an Olympian?
I'm klutzy and lazy.
I don't mean you personally. I mean everyone listening to this. And anyway, you don't have to be an athlete to live by the Olympic creed. Whatever you do, remember, it's not about winning. It's about taking part. It's not about conquering, but about fighting well.
I can handle that.
So can you.
Do your best. Do your best. Do your best.
Do your best.
Bye,
we'll see you next week.